Our users now have the ability to enter into our contract. However, we do not have the ability to pick a winner. So in this section, we're going to start working on this little additional element down here. We should have a button that the user can click. Whenever they click it, it should execute the pick winner function on our contract. Recall what we had said when we last looked at these mocks, by the way. We should only really be clicking on this button if we are the manager of the contract. Now, certainly we could figure out some way to only render this section if the user who is viewing the application at this point in time is the manager. However, for this simple application, this pretty straightforward one, we're just going to say, you know what, everyone can see this button, everyone can click it. Of course, if you click it and you're not the manager, you're going to get an error message. But again, for this first time around, we're going to keep things nice and simple. All right, so let's get started. Back inside my code editor, I'm going to find the render method towards the bottom of our component. I'll then go down to the bottom of the render method, and we're going to place a new HR that's going to serve as the section boundary for this new little pick a winner functionality. So here's the bottom HR. I'm going to put a new HR in right underneath that. And then between these two HRs, we'll place an H4 that describes what this section is for. So we'll say, ready to pick a winner. And then underneath that, we can place a button tag for the user to click on. Let's give it the text something like, pick a winner. And then we'll also need to hook up an event handler to the button. So let's set up a on-click event handler. Whenever someone clicks on this thing, we'll run a function that we'll call this dot onClick. Notice that we're not using a form here because we don't have any inputs or anything like that to work with. We have just one simple button. So if a user clicks on this thing, we just want to go ahead and call the pick winner function on our contract. Let's now define the onClick function inside of our component. So I'm going to scroll up above our render method. So right here, we'll define the onClick method, and this will be called anytime someone clicks on the pick winner button. We're going to use the same syntax that we used just a little bit ago with onSubmit so that we can avoid having to worry about the context of the function. So we'll say inside of here, onClick is async and then an arrow function. Now the contents of this thing is going to look very similar to what we just wrote a minute ago inside of onSubmit. And in fact, it's going to look nearly identical. We're going to get a list of accounts. We'll set some message to tell the user that we're about to do something. We'll then send a transaction to the network. And then after that transaction is complete, we'll then tell the user that, hey, a winner has been picked. All right, so inside of onClick, we'll first start off by getting a list of all of our accounts. So we'll say const accounts is await web3.eth.get accounts. Don't forget the await keyword right here, really easy to miss that one. We'll then try to call the pick winner function on our lottery contract. So I'll say await lottery.methods.pickwinner.send. For this method, or for this function, I should say, the pick winner function, recall that we're not sending in any money or anything like that. So all we have to do here is specify exactly who is sending in the transaction, or in other words, the source account. So we'll say from accounts at 0. Now right above this thing, we'll add in a little bit of messaging to our users. So we'll say this.setState for message. And this is going to be kind of like the pending message where we tell the user, hey, just hold on for a second, we're waiting for the transaction. So let's use the same text that we used before just to be consistent. We had said waiting on transaction success. So let's do the same thing here. Waiting on transaction success. And then underneath this thing, we can place a message to tell the user that a winner has been picked. So we'll say this.setState message, a winner has been picked, like so. All right, now one thing that you might be kind of curious about, well, it would be really fantastic if we could somehow tell our users exactly who just won the contract or who just won the lottery. However, remember that we are sending a transaction to this function, And whenever we send a transaction, we get no return value back. So we have absolutely no ability right now to be told who just won the lottery. We can't do it. We could say maybe look up some transaction logs around our contract and see where the contract has sent money to. That's a little bit burdensome. Maybe a better way to approach this, a better way to figure out who just won the contract, would be to go back over to our contract source code. So here's the contract source right here. And maybe whenever we call pick winner, maybe we set up some variable on our contract and say we record the address of the person who last won the lottery. So maybe in theory we do something like last winner equals players at index inside the contract. This would definitely work right here. So we could pick a winner and then we could read the value of last winner and display that on the screen. That's certainly an option. However, I'm going to leave that up to you if you want to try that approach. For us, I think that we're going to stay nice and simple and simply say, hey, a winner has been picked. And it will be up to our users to kind of figure out, oh, okay, either I did win or I didn't win. To be honest, at the end of the day, it's going to be pretty obvious who won and who didn't win, because you can always just check your MetaMask balance right here. And it will tell you, okay, you've either got money or you lost money or whatever it might be. All right, so let's take a quick glance at our code again. So we've got our listing of accounts. We set up a waiting message. We send in the transaction. And then after the transaction is complete, we then display the text, a winner has been picked. I think this is looking pretty good. So let's flip over to the browser and do a quick test. Back over in the browser, I'll refresh very quickly just to make sure I've got the latest code inside of here. All right, now I'm going to click on the Pick a Winner button. When I click on Pick a Winner, we get the confirm transaction message again. Of course, this time we're not sending along any money with this transaction. However, even when you send in a transaction with no money, MetaMask still asks for your approval, because anytime you send a transaction of any kind, it costs gas. And of course, gas costs money. So MetaMask wants to make sure that our application is not trying to maliciously send in some transactions. That's why you see this window right here asking for approval. So again, we'll click on the submit button. And then we sit around and twiddle our thumbs for another 15 to 30 seconds. As I've mentioned many times, and I'm sure it's getting very repetitive, yep, this is the point at which we would want to give our users some very clear messaging and say, okay, like we're processing, we're picking a winner, and very shortly you will figure out who won. This time around, it's going to be pretty simplistic because, hey, we've only got one person inside of our contract. And so it should be my account that wins and receives the 0.011 ether back. So down here, you'll see that the text updates to say a winner has been picked. Now, if we refresh the page, we should see the contract revert to say 0 people have entered. And we should also see it say that there is 0 ether in competition. So we'll refresh. And now we're back to seeing 0 people have entered and 0 ether is available to be won. All right, so that's pretty much it. That is our first little contract. That's the first web application to work with our Ethereum code. So let's take a break here and we'll talk about some additional topics in the next video.